and or 1700. By the way, those will be the numbers you'll use to be a part of this evening's discussion. Again, thank you all very much for joining us. This is your voice in the community, talk that get results. With regard to your participation in the show, we encourage you to call in on the numbers listed 1-869-469-1616 or 1700. Here's a suggestion. You have a question or comment, perhaps you can get a pencil, piece of paper, write it down so that you're well organized, and then getting on the show, you take as little time as possible so that we can accommodate as many of you as we can. We ask only, first of all, you respect yourselves and then respect others, because we will not accept anything we deem that's not within our broadcast standards, but we encourage you to always be forceful with your point. Thank you all again for joining us, and you can follow our live video stream of this program at our channel on YouTube at Vaughan Radio, and also on our Facebook page at Vaughan Radio. Tonight, the Honorable Spencer Brand, good evening. The Honorable Spencer Brand, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and a very pleasant good evening to my fellow panelists, and a very good evening to all those who are listening and viewing this edition of Let's Talk Tonight. Webbo, I want to take this opportunity and to offer condolences to a number of families who are in mourning tonight. Of course, all of us would know that we have lost the phenomenal woman, Pastor Eunice Griffin, there from Newcott, of the Taylor Memorial Wesleyan Church. I say a phenomenal woman, Webber, because I believe that she has certainly been one of those ladies who would have what we call a broken the glass ceiling long time ago. So I want to take this opportunity to offer my condolences to her entire family and the Taylor Memorial Wesleyan Holiness family there. However, I also want to take this opportunity to offer condolences to the family of a very young lady there in Stony Grove, Chelsea Hobson, member of my church, Gloria and the entire family. I believe that they are in deep mourning tonight over the loss of Chelsea, a young lady. Some may argue gone too soon, but only the Master knows. And of course, Webbo, we have also seen the untimely demise of a young man there in the Craddock Road area, Shaquille Campbell, who was murdered a few days ago. I also want to take this opportunity on behalf of my family to offer deep condolences to the family. And Webbo, to all other families who are in mourning throughout Nevis, throughout the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, and family members who are in mourning further afield. I believe that past week we have had a number of funerals, resting of loved ones and friends and colleagues. Certainly want to offer them my deep condolences. I hope that the Master would grant some comfort in these very difficult times as they go through this mourning period. So I also want to take this opportunity and to say to all those who are celebrating tonight, whether it's a birthday, a wedding anniversary, or some accomplishment, certainly want to wish them a wonderful evening, and I hope that they can celebrate and hope that they can enjoy their evening tonight as they celebrate whatever the occasion is that they are celebrating. Webbo, I also want to early before I forget it, to say advance Mother's Day to all the wonderful mothers here in St. Kitts and Nevis and the Federation. Certainly to my own mother, Silvani, wonderful, darling lady, and to my dear wife, and to all those who will be celebrating. And I want to say to all of the men folk, make sure that they go the extra mile to make sure that our mothers are taken care of, to make sure that the wives are taken care of, and let them know that we truly love them and appreciate them. Webbo, we have seen a number of cases unfolding before us. On the personal front, I just want to say to you, Webbo, that we go back again at some point in the court for. I've received an application from my opponent as it relates to an application to discharge the order of the appeals court in my election petition. But the lawyers are dealing with that, and they will take care of it as usual. So, Bo, I want to thank you for the invitation, and I am certainly looking forward to tonight's discussion. Thank you, and a very pleasant good evening.
Conrad Nye Liebert, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and pleasant good evening to your hard-working staff here at Vaughan Radio, to my colleagues around the table, pleasant good evening, and to all who is in tune to the show, various means that we have existing today. Webbo, it's always a pleasure to be here discussing the issues that are affecting the people, and it's really that part of me that I enjoy quite a lot, not just on the road. And tonight I'm encouraging the many people who always meet me and have so much to say to call in and to be a part of the conversation. Well, I want to say thank you very much for having me once again.
Edric W. Stanley, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and good evening to my fellow panelists. Good evening to the gracious people of Nevis and to the people of St. Kitts, those who listen to us on the World Wide Web and the Caribbean Basin, throughout the Caribbean Basin, and indeed the rest of the world. Webbo, this evening I have to congratulate you with regard to the interview that you did with the Honorable Cleone Stapleton Simmons, and you did a marvelous job. And I'll tell you, she was able to think on her feet. As a result, she came through with flying colors. So I suspected, for the want of a better word, what you attempted to accomplish the Tuesday night before, trying to get me to admit a certain amount of influence that I have, and I try to duck from accepting. But I think you saw an avenue. I do not know how the communication came about between you and the Honorable Cleone Stapleton Simmons, but you were able to get her on the program, and I would venture to say, maybe, just maybe, you were attempting to, as you're a kingmaker, to in fact bring her onto the program and to making her into a king. So as we are going forward, like I said, based on the interview, which was professionally done, congratulations. And I again would be repeating myself, but let me say it. She was able to think on her feet, and as a result withstood the barrage of questions that you threw at her, and she was able to withstand the barrage of questions which you threw at her, simply because she's a thinking lady, a good lady. I will leave it there for now. Webbo.
What we got? I got a couple of things I want to put on. Brian, what you got?
Well, on my way here, I believe that by now the world would have heard that former President of the United States was found to be liable in terms of...
Brian, why don't you allow me to do this for us, so that, you know, when you start and you get some cross-examination from Edric and Naya, I don't forget. I wanted to mention, as you were mentioning earlier, that we had lost one of our illustrious citizens. And I want to mention here, I mentioned it early this morning.
Oh, yes.
And why does nobody want me to talk?
Because we listen to you.
That's why you don't want me to talk.
Sometimes.
Oh, okay. So, a dear family member of Von Radio, Auntie Vanita Walters, and I just wanted to mention it here for this audience, and to say how much we appreciate her service. I mean, that's the kind of service that I really, really like. She gave, how should I put it? She gave more than she took, always. And every, let's say, April or May, religiously she would call me and she said, Webbo, I'll be time, I'll come up soon, And sometimes I'm not concentrating. I said, what do you mean? He said, man, the 18th, so we got to decide what we're doing, I said, well, you all will let me know. So you fix up what you're doing. And she defended us, to the nth degree. She stayed loyal, and if you supported Van, she supported you. And if you didn't, well, I don't know. And she gave selflessly. A lot of times you don't want to take things from certain people because they don't mean it. Not with her. And all across the islands, even people who don't know her, they know of her. Because, at least for the birthday greeting show, almost in every episode, there is something from Vanita Walters and family. You know what I'm saying? And she enjoyed that. And I don't want to delve into the details of what else she did, except to say she made sure that she took care of others. I don't know how she get it done, but somewhere it is written that the people who gave are the people who have the least, but they give the most. So I just wanted to mention that. If anyone else want to comment, yes, but then thanks for the time, Brian.
No, that's fine.
I would like to just extend my condolences to the family, the Walters family, also because I've listened all the time, and like you've said, she was always in the mix with reference to birthday greetings, extending birthday greetings to a lot of people on Nevis and further afield. And therefore, I join you and Von Radio with the extension of condolences to her family and extended family. And I'll tell you, I listened to the condolences. I listened to the family, the number of family members and association, and boy, she's got a long list of people. A list of people. It speaks volumes, meaning it tells you she was a lady larger than life. May her soul rest in eternal peace. Webbo.
Yeah, it was, we have a group of us, too numerous to mention, right? And something, 90-something% of them are ladies, right? And, they got us. But I don't like to mention who they are because I have a funny story of one time I mentioned it and this other person, sometimes when you let people know what you have, they come back in the night for it. So that's why sometimes I don't like to let them know, But anyway, we got something special Thursday morning, Edric, okay? So make sure that you wake up early. Thursday morning from 6. Right? Okay, Brian, go ahead.
But while you're on Vanita Walters, what I know of Vanita is that she has always been a very generous person. And you are so absolutely correct, Webbo, that while, quote unquote, she may not have appeared to have plenty or have a lot, she was extremely, extremely generous. And I have known her, Webbo, to be one of Von Radio's staunchest defenders. There are a few of them out there. Well, not necessarily a few, but there are many of them.
A lot.
I'm correcting myself. There are a lot of them out there. And I believe that Vanny was one of the most fiercest defenders of Von Radio, and a very, very generous and kind-hearted person. I have always believed, Webbo, that sometimes we see our people move around in their quiet demeanor, in their own unassuming nature, but the contribution that they have made to this island with their generosity, with their kindness, and with their humility, really, without much fanfare, without going up to the mountaintop and shout that I am who I am. She was one of that person, and I believe that her community, this island and this federation are certainly better off because she came and she gave, she shared, she was able to live through a period when I think that we have but in many ways we have come of age, and I think that she have made an indelible contribution to this island. I just want to as well offer my condolences to the Walters family. I know that she will be greatly missed because of her generosity, because of her kindness. And Webbo, I know that you here at Von Radio have lost one of your staunchest and fiercest supporters and defenders. So but I believe that the example that she have left and the example that she have set would continue with our family, and would continue with Von Ridge and with those who knew her, those who continue to celebrate her, and certainly those who were on the receiving end of her generosity and kindness. So I just want to say to her, kudos, and God bless.
And you know what she did, which was so immaculate? She not only did it on her own behalf, she made her children and them do the same thing.
Yes.
And and these are the sort of examples that I like to highlight, because there is so much joy in that type of living.
Absolutely.
I was speaking to one of my girlfriends, we're speaking about her, and she said, she didn't know all that well, but she lives in the area. So she will always remember when they're going home from school, little girls, she would be on her veranda and she will call out to them and say, are you all right? And will give them whatever little encouragement. And maybe she didn't even know exactly who they are. And the point I want to make with that is this, that just like I normally will say in the morning, you'll be surprised how powerful a little encouragement, a little word of encouragement can do. Sometimes better than a bundle of money. Some people are going to debate me with that and say, no, give me the money. But sometimes a little bit of encouragement, right, goes a real long way, and people really appreciate it.
A mighty long way.
So, and I think this community is void of that to a large degree, and there are a lot of us who crave for it and really appreciate it. And so with Vanny, I could start calling off a lot of names that we're in a group or a gang. But when they're doing anything, they set things up. I don't have to do a thing. And they organize them all selves. So I'm not calling the group now, because like I said, some folks are standing by to come back in the night. You know what I'm saying? Now you wanted to say something, or you?
No,
You're good.
To be quite honest, I don't know the lady in person.
Okay.
Okay.
But according to what you hear me
According to what I hear, is all what I want us to be.
According to what you hear me say, you like her.
Well, of course, and I'm going to see much more of her.
Yes.
Because I mean that's what life is all about. You guys have said she doesn't appear to have much, but maybe she did. But she was so generous.
Yeah.
And that goes a long way. And I think the point you have made, Webbo, a little encouragement, sometimes goes much more than monetary donation. And sometimes we got to take time out to reach out to people and try and inspire them and encourage them in their endeavors. I think we need a lot more of that. I think the society now has become so personalized with all these little gadgets here and there and everything else. But these little things that really makes us good, sometimes we overlook it. Sometimes people feel like it's not necessary. Sometimes people think that, they won't even listen. But as you say, she would start an approach and say, all right, and she probably didn't even know who were there. But as time progressed, somebody who was a part of the group passing by was impacted, and of course recognize the niceness in the individual and show that's what I like to hear about Nivisions, really and truly.
She grew up in Churchgong,
You're not going to tell me.
She actually lived with May Baker.
Yeah, but you're not going to tell me is your cousin or anything.
Well, listen, my brother's name was called. All right?
You're the best.
She's a younger person than I am. And like I said, she grew up with May Baker. May Baker reared her into the kind of person she became. And as a result, she was larger than life. And she encompassed the past Vaughan family and the present Vaughan family. So you were included. So even though you may have uttered the word that you didn't know her,
They probably forget that
Know the person.
yeah.
By my name, because I'm not good with that.
Yeah, but she knows you, meaning that once you are of and associated with Vaughan,
Right.
she's got you.
Yeah.
Now, if you're not, and you don't like Vaughan, well, I don't know how that will work out. But yeah, so she was all right.
So
Those are the things that pains you. You know what I'm saying? Those are the things that make you sometimes can't speak, Anyway, Bren, thanks for the time. Go ahead.
Perhaps we can continue along that same line, and of course I also mentioned Pastor Eunice Griffin. Like I said, a phenomenal woman in our community. I thought, Webbo, that here was a lady who have made a contribution in our community by preaching and doing it in a kind of way that was, in my mind, uncompromising, fearless. And I think that she had a kind of almost kind of calypso reggae mix kind of approach towards her when she is doing what she was doing as a preacher. And I think too, Webbo, that here is another woman who have made contribution in our community and has done it for many, many, many years. I too believe that she has left Nevis much better off than she met it. And I think that as well, the example that she have left are being embraced by her family. And here again, I believe, Webbo, that these are people who I think practice their craft as Vanny did. Vanny, brilliant cook, chef, whatever you want to call it. And here we have on the other spectrum a remarkable pastor, spiritual leader, someone who was willing to call a spade in an uncompromising way. And I feel that both of them have been on the stage, both of them have made their contribution in their different ways. And I believe, Webbo, that our society and our community are much, much better off because Pastor Griffin came, she saw, and she did, and she conquered. I know that her church family would definitely miss her, because she was one of those persons who was very vibrant even in her twilight years. There was no stopping, there was no slowing down, there was no sitting down of this remarkable woman. And Webbo, there are some gems in our community. There are some real remarkable, heroic persons in our community. And here again, our good pastor gone on to the great beyonds, and I believe that her contribution certainly has made this island, this federation, a much better place.
So and we've lost both of them, they're women, but I've been speaking especially of late and marvel at how some of these women are getting certain things done. I drive around the island sometimes, especially on the weekend, and in different spots you will see them having a breakfast sale, lunch, when you call it them clothes new to you or used clothing sale to raise funds for something for the other people in the community and stuff like that. And I don't see no fellas, no men there. All of them is women doing these little things to help. After they got to look after the children, after they have to work 5 days a week just like everybody else. And I ask myself, how they get it do? And they do a good job now. And these are the things to me, and most of these people, you don't hear them, as Mr. Brannan said, advertising and talking about it and saying, I did this, I solved, I helped this, and they do it.
They get it done.
And I don't know, I have nothing against those who boast about what they do, but I just like those people who do what they got to do and get it done. Mark you, those who do otherwise, I'm not criticizing you or anything, so don't cuss me. But I just like these people like Auntie Vanny and them, who, how they do it, they do such good work. They give of themselves, they give everything, look after the kids, and they don't fuss. No titles are given to them, and I don't even think they mind, because people like Edric, you notice, right? What they're doing. And when you notice too, and Naya and me and everybody, so they don't have to worry about that, but they do a good job.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I don't mind taking up the time to point these things out. Because I always say these are the kind of persons who really build a society, a nation.
Yep.
These are the kind of group what I call thought that get results.
They're very faithful, Webbo. They're very faithful and patient, because you'll find them selling some breakfast stuff, and you wonder how far that money would go. But they're doing it,
Right.
and they're gonna do it next week.
And then when somebody gets in an accident or something sick
Yeah.
in their village or the community, another little bake sale,
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
But anybody who know me and would always hear me say, one of the things my mother told me, little is much.
God is in it.
It works. It's real. So that is how maybe these people are able to do it. As nice say, it may not be a lot,
May not be a lot.
but it looks like it gets the job done.
Well, it's happening.
Along with maybe some prayer and some faith,
Together.
everything together,
Yeah.
it works.
Yes.
They gave more than they took.
More than they take. I normally, Edric, would say, give and take, but give more than you take.
Take. There's a place up there for you.
Oh, really? Down there too.
Well, I'm beginning to feel that I am making preparations to get up there.
Really?
Oh, yes.
Making preparation.
Oh, yes.
What does that mean?
It's a tough battle here in Arsenal. The people who anger you all the time and they rub you the wrong way and you would get upset, but you have to go back to the master and ask for forgiveness.
After you've taken care of them.
Right.
Edric, oh, by the way, as I was about to say, Edric is a super heavyweight. Ted says, hello, Edric. Ted is as vibrant and everything, and he said he doesn't miss a show. So he says he's aware that every time I gets in trouble and I say, where is Ted tonight? So he says, sends his regards
Yes.
to you fellas. He's in every evening, and he's doing well.
Yes.
Good.
Yes. Yes.
Good.
Yes.
So I said to Ted, I said, boy, every time I think on that journey, we all come together, As Edric say, it wasn't never easy.
It's an obligation. Obligation.
And I just have something there on my desk. I was telling my tech here. I might have to look for Ted again. Why does people always want to sue us? For nothing. By the way, Bran, before you go on to what you were saying, you had mentioned something about your case.
Yes.
What was it?
Well, my opponent have applied to have the
Your opponent mean who? Because you see, when you're communicating, there are people who are listening who do not know exactly what you're talking about. So you must always try and do what we call effective communication. My opponent in the you're afraid to call him?
No, let me back up a bit further, Webbo.
Okay.
Well, I think that the general public would know that after the December election, the Premier and myself was facing election petitions. Dr. Bartlett against Premier Bantley and Miss J.D. Keynes against myself. Both matters went to the court. The court would have ruled in our favor. Miss Keynes, my opponent, would have appealed, and the Court of Appeal would have handed down a judgment against her appeal. And now basically she and her team is applying to have she have made an application for discharge of the order of the appeals court. We are going to face that as well head on, and we are hoping that we will have a similar outcome.
Okay, but that in layman language means what? See, at the first instance, when the case was, you won the case?
Yes.
Okay. And Mr. Brantley as well?
Yes.
Okay. And then J.D. Keynes appeal.
Yes.
Dr. Bartlett did not appeal.
No, she didn't.
Okay. And then the result of that appeal was what?
We
You won that
we
as
won the
well.
appeal.
Okay. So you won twice, she lost twice. So she's appealing again. So
That's-
this is a third case coming up?
Third case coming.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is that the Privy Council? Headed for the Privy Council? Because
We are still a little bit uncertain. Basically, they are appealing the ruling of the appeal court judge. A kind of little a nuance kind of thing. So we are just making sure that we sort it out clearly.
But that is why I ask you, because I didn't understand it. I thought that the procedure was, and now you can help me because you said you have some background in law, right? That you take the case, you don't like the decision, then you appeal to the High Court, and then you have a third step, which would be the court of the last instance, which is the Privy Council. Naya?
Yes. Well, that's what
That's
I
what
know.
you know.
If you appeal the judgment of the appellate court, then in our system the next step would be the Privy Council.
Okay, well, but I'm just we don't know, but I just was trying to understand.
I'm not
it
sure where that
because right,
it's
I
a little-
suppose I'm an ordinary person and try to act on behalf of an ordinary person in the public who may not understand. You know what I'm saying? So if anybody got the legal and the technical explanation, maybe they can help. So that's not over yet, then.
No,
Okay. Not over until it's over.
that's right.
Well, what are they attempting to achieve?
What do you mean what they're attempting to achieve?
It's a
But
straightforward
it's not
question.
over, but it's, well, and that is not over yet for you either, you know, because your cousin told me 2 days ago that he's not finished with you yet. He's fighting all the way through as long as he has life.
Well, the thing is that he is fighting on the wrong team.
So you're going to try and get him over?
Listen,
I'm listening.
it takes a lot of persuasion to get people who are concretized within a certain organization.
Yeah, but you said he's on the wrong team.
Right.
So I'm asking you if you're going to try and get him over.
Why so?
Okay.
So, well, based on what you're telling us, Mr. Brand,
Yes.
I asked the question, and I'll ask it again. What are they attempting to achieve by getting a third bite at the same apple when they already got two null and void judgments? Are they attempting to generously get the seat from you without the electorate?
Mr. Stanley, I am not sure how to answer your question as to what it is that they are trying to achieve. I would say this much, that it appears to me that they are basically trying to move the appeals court to, in essence, set aside the judgment, one of the High Court judge and of the appeals court. And I am suspecting to have the quote unquote their day in court. It's a very
This is a very special situation.
yeah.
Because here is J.D. Keynes, who never really made an election petition in a sense, because she failed at the first hurdle, and in an absolute way. So I was very surprised when she appealed that decision. I can see a judge up the ladder. I mean, if you are not meeting the requirements, that's a straightforward thing. You're outside the dates. So really and truly, the first judge say words to the effect that her application was aborted. Words to that effect, meaning that it never exists in a sense.
Yeah.
And so she's going forward, and now she have appealed the judgment of the appellate court. That's going into some waters which is very difficult to understand, really, because if you have failed to meet the requirements in the first instance, no judge can shift dates or anything. I mean, I don't understand this. If probably Pat had appealed and carry on appealing, I could have see where she have reached closer to really filing a well-filed petition. But in Jeddy Kane's case, she was totally outside the date, and that's where it's at in the very first decision. And I don't know what they're hoping to achieve, because dates don't change. You made an application outside the dates that is required of you.
But I'm bewildered, simply because people supposed to have a certain degree of common sense, logic, and applying that common sense or logic you're supposed to be able to determine what your chances are of winning. And if you in fact came to the door and the door is already locked and you don't have the right key, meaning you don't have your numbers, your timetable lined up consistent with the applicable information, timeline, as the case might be, how could you logically conclude?
Edric, the point is the system is there and everybody have a right to use it, correct? Good evening, thank you for holding.
Good evening. I'm going to call the education.
You don't.
I'm trying to reach a program that is ongoing concerning farming with this virgin that is called Banky.
This not the right program. This not.
Okay.
No,
Which station? Can you assist me with the number?
No, I could only assist with you with the same number that you call.
Okay. Which station is that I'm supposed to get on to?
No, this is a power.
Yeah.
Work with me. This is a Powerhouse One Radio.
Yes.
You're right.
So tell me another station that is in
No. Okay. All right. You just hold. Go ahead, Brian. Yeah. Go ahead, Edric.
So
No. You continue with the point.
what I'm trying to say is that logically they have attempted to abuse the court in terms of getting a false start. You have been barred. You can't enter simply because your timing is off limit, off base. You're out of time, and as a result you've been told that by the learned judge, and you still want to attempt to appeal.
But on the other side of it, though, Edric, walk with me. You never heard of a judge making a decision in a case, and a person argues that the decision of the judge was wrong, and they go to the appeal court, and the appeal court agrees? You never heard of a situation like that?
Yes.
And similarly, the other instances where the lower court agrees, the higher court, the appeal court agrees, and the person says, I don't agree, and they go to the privy council and they get it overturned. You never heard of an incident like that?
Yes.
Well, I do not think this will happen.
Now walk with me. So you never heard of instances like
Sure.
those? Okay.
But-
So walk with me. So were those people to conclude that a judge already told them that they don't have the case or they don't agree or the other fellow wins and they stop there, would they have prevailed?
I'm trying to fathom the question because
You're trying to fathom the question?
what I'm saying to you,
You walk with me. You want me, you don't understand the question?
quite so.
You don't understand it? Okay, Brian, help me out. Ask him the question, the same question that I asked him, because he...
Ask him again, Webbo. I think he pondered it. Ask him again.
You never heard of a situation whereby someone took a case to the court. The judge in ruling, you took Brian to court. The judge agrees that you won. You were right. Brian says, I do not agree. So he's going to appeal the decision. He goes and the appeal court says, Brian is right again. Right? Or you were right and Brian was wrong.
I think I already concluded that the case has been won twice, and at the same time, even though someone feels for some reason that they still have the right to appeal, logically, practically, they know, because this wasn't a sophisticated case, you know. This wasn't a technical case. It's in my view, based on what I know in law, it was a simple case, and as a result, do not try to complicate it to the extent where you're going back for a third bite of the cherry or the apple and expect to get a different result.
Well, at this point, I don't think the case is about election irregularities. It's more about the breach of the requirements. Mr. Brand? Yeah, this is more about the breach of the requirements, because that's where it stopped. Nothing have passed that stage to get into the facts of the case, and irregularity is what they're probably thinking about. You know, it's about the breach of the requirements. And so maybe
Look,
there is something to know.
the attorney who represented them in the first instance requested of the judge to fix it, and the judge said categorically, it's not in my domain to fix it. You are late, and as a consequence you cannot enter. So therefore the case was stopped, and an adjudication was, our judgment was handed down, and yet you are logically trying to illogically conclude that it's not over.
Okay. All right. This part of the discussion is over. So let's go to Mr. Brand with the point that I took him off.
Webbo, I think I started by saying that today we saw in the US the liable case for sexual abuse and defamation in the Donald Trump case. I find it, Webbo, to be a very unique and interesting decision, because I felt that here we had a situation where Donald Trump was being charged for quote-unquote rape, and the jury did not find him guilty, so to speak, on the rape charge, but they found him liable for sexual harassment and defamation at a cost of what? I think it was $5 million. It seems to me, Webbo, that it is one thing to be found innocent of a crime, whether, let's put the crime itself aside, but I think that the kind of hatchet job, so to speak, that Donald Trump would have done on social media against this woman cost him $5 million today. And I think that while there are those who believe that they have these platforms, you know, these social media platforms, that they can say what they want, they can write what they want, they can get into certain forums and broadcast all kind of thing that is libelous. I felt that once again we see a court is saying that, hey, wait a minute, you can't just go out there and say what you want and do what you want on social media. And I think again, Webbo, that we have the second time in the Fox case recently, and now in this particular case, I believe that these two cases are saying to all of us that, yeah, you have a platform, but you have to be able to use that platform in such a way that you do not bring injury and bring harm to people. That for me was telling, rather than the actual guilty verdict of the rape. If you put that aside, and I think that, I don't know if people are now going to be checked, so to speak, or we are going to still continue to use these various platforms to malign people and to say all manner of evil against people because they think that they have the cover of freedom of speech. That I thought was the interesting outcome of this case. It's very rare that, hey, you're going to court on a particular issue and then you are found guilty, so to speak, on a different one, which I thought was very interesting.
Let me say this. Had the jury found that Donald Trump was guilty of rape?
No, they didn't.
Well, no, I'm saying to you, had the jury, because they didn't go there, but had they come up with a verdict, it might have been pursued further, because rape is a felony, whereas the other aspect of it may not be categorized as felonious, and consequently he got off by just with punitive damage. I mean, paying for punitive damages. Had the jury found Donald Trump guilty of rape, which they could not have, they didn't go that far, because it would have been on the record that Donald Trump has been found guilty of rape by a jury, and as a result, further steps could have been taken, because he would have brought this from a charge to a guilty verdict.
To conviction.
So I would say that the jury was quite circumspect regarding stopping short of finding him guilty of rape.
Well, I think
You may, yeah, go ahead.
I think the threshold to prove rape is much higher than sexual harassment or even defamation. To bring in someone for rape, of course, you have to deal with consent, and of course, when this rape had taken place, it brings quite a major dimension into the case. If you really want to, in a very serious way, bring in one for rape, you really have to have much stronger evidence and convincing evidence.
Could it be Naya that the jury might have been thinking he didn't rape her, but something happened? Could it be that?
Well, that is what the result point to.
Oh, really?
If something happened.
Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Refer to that as sexual harassment.
Good evening. Hello?
Good evening.
Yes, you're on the air.
Yeah, just to let Eric know that this project that he was long awaiting to see, one of the senior federal government ministers mentioned it last week, and he mentioned it with a passion that the famous bridge from St. to Navy. They are thinking about getting it done. As a matter of fact, I think they said that they already, have some persons who are interested in the project. So I would like to know what Eric thinks about this at this time.
I got it on my list.
So you do?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. So you think it will really come to this time?
Listen, we do not know, because I had a financier here who died, unfortunately.
I will listen after the
He died.
Okay.
We lose permission. They're
But
thinking about.
At the
building
same
a bridge.
time,
We lose
this-
permission. They're thinking about building a bridge.
this bridge will come to fruition at some point in time. It's just that, like I've said, I had a financier here who unfortunately passed, and as a result, the drawing is still at my house. I have the estimate from maybe 30 years ago of the Caribbean Central Bank, which would have cost
That's outdated.
425 million EC at the time. My costing currently was at 410 million US. That gives you an update regarding the current costing. But at the same time, like I've said, the financing that I had here passed on, and as a result, I had a fall, and I'm not making excuses. But as a result of that fall, I had to pull back. Hence, you may not have heard anything from me, but I heard the former Prime Minister and the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Denzel Douglas, bringing it to the fore and said that he has lined up 2 current proposals that might come to fruition. It might be far and few between, but we have to wait and see. But I'll tell you, it is possible, because plenty money is in the world, and St. Kitts and Nevis as a nation has its best days and months or years ahead of it.
Plenty money is in the world, but they're for certain things, right?
Quite so.
Okay, so plenty money is in the world. Nevis wanted some money for certain development to get certain things done, but they couldn't get any. But they're going to get it for something else.
No.
It is very likely, Webbo, depending on who and what they go to the draw for.
But that is what I'm saying. So plenty money is in the world to do certain things. So you, in other words, what I'm saying to you then, maybe you should let people know that we have a lot of money here, okay, but it's not to do certain things. Correct?
That is correct.
That's a fear.
That right. So all the if the cost of living is very high, if you got to pay these VAT tax, etc., which is causing people to live at the poverty line and stuff like that, no money is there for relief for that. Correct?
Quite so.
Okay, but other money is there for other things.
Well, like I said, it depends on priority.
Okay, I'm just checking. Now you wanted to make a point.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that the current government is trying to advance that kind of ideology to build a bridge between St. Kitts and Nevis. I'm talking about the current Labour government in St. Kitts, because I think they want to conquer Nevis through a perceived good relation strategy. With whose permission they're going to build a bridge to Nevis? Because they are the federal government? Who tell them Nevis people want a bridge? Have you done research? Anybody done research? Have you consulted anybody over here? I've spoken to many business people and they say, no, we don't want a bridge. Because St. Kitts is going to totally consume Nevis. Totally consume Nevis if there's a bridge. And we got to a great extent be mindful of that. I mean, there's a certain amount of business have developed for mostly Nevisian people who have invested in boats going to St. Kitts. When the bridge come, there won't be that anymore. That's going to impact Nevisians. But you need to do your research and proper consultation on the matter. You can't just say the federal government is going to build a bridge. Two-way.
Let me ask a general question. And I have noted here, there's a lot of discussion or mention of late about some of the islands becoming a republic. And I think some persons of the authorities have said that they want persons in the general public to make an input in it. So what I've noticed over the years, they're very seismic projects or undertakings that somehow people don't want the general public to be a part of. And I'm wondering what is so difficult about that. And even like I said, with the CCJ and all these things and stuff like that, and we talk so much about democracy. So I'm wondering, why is it so difficult? Why do people don't want the general public to have a say in these seismic things?
Well,
sorry, Mr. Stanley, to interrupt you.
I got it on my list, anyway, but go ahead.
I want to probably pick up from where Naya left off and look at it from a different angle. The idea of the bridge, Webbo, it's coming at a time when the island of Nevis is once again seriously pursuing the expansion of the Vance W. Amory International Airport. I want us to be very mindful that, and I'm trying to take it from the angle that Naya was taking, and he can correct me if I am maybe a little bit off course, but for some reason I don't think that I am. I am hoping that this renewed interest and this renewed revitalization of the talk of the bridge between St. Kitts and Nevis is not by any way a kind of smoke screen to try and perhaps sideline or derail or confuse the thrust that we are making as it regards to the expansion of the Vance Amory International Airport. It is, for me, a concern that here we are on the island of Nevis seeking to ensure that we position ourselves to be able to have some semblance of international connectivity from the island of Nevis. And once again we are seeing this thrust or this interest in this bridge. Naya said they want to. Yeah, I think you said they want to.
They want to conquer Nevis by perception of good relations, and we got to be mindful of that. They're in position to do that. You got to be careful.
I just want us to remain focused, and because you asked the question as to how are they going to do it and who are they, I think that there will have to be some conversation with the island of Nevis and the people of Nevis. It is something that I believe has had many conversations over the many decades. But for me, personally, as an individual, and this is Spencer Brand speaking, not speaking for or on behalf of the Nevis Island government, this is Spencer Brand speaking. The curiosity at the time when we are seriously contemplating the advancement of the Van Stamme International Airport and what it can mean, or the impact it can have on the island of Nevis with such a bridge. Mr. Stan, you gave some numbers, and I think you and I had this conversation many years ago as to a possible concept. I have always believed that if this bridge were to come to fruition, we perhaps don't necessarily need to build a complete suspension bridge from St. Kitts to Nevis. We have some space between St. Kitts and Nevis, and we have a lot of materials that we can dispose of and shorten the actual suspension of the bridge and put what you call reclaimed or made up island somewhere over there, and cut that $400 and something million that you talk about literally in half, and you can accomplish many things at the same time. You can clean up the environment, all of these old derelict vehicles and stuff and so on and so forth, create a landfill, and you seal it, and then you build like one massive roundabout right out there in the sea.
We got the material here.
A lot of material. So
that may not be environmentally friendly. So we got a long way to go in terms of environmental impact tests and all kind of things. You put a bridge, the next thing half a Nevis start eat off on the other side. I gotta be careful what I'm doing. All these must be serious considerations, I mean, to put a bridge between St. Kitts and Nevis, you're going to upset the currents and the way things are naturally flowing. And so it's threatening to Nevis as far as I check. That's how serious it is to me.
Nothing happens before its time. And in that regard, a lot of things in other jurisdictions happened based on where we are in terms of 2023, 2030, 2040. Nevis will get its fullest share once St. Kitts has been exhausted.
So why
So we got to wait.
do we have to wait?
No, I'm not saying that we have to wait, because it is just likely that when people come to Nevis, see the beauty of Nevis, make a complete comparison of St. Kitts and Nevis, and they will choose Nevis. We have seen it in the past, and Nevis has been developing quite nicely, simply because of the preference of certain individuals and the different concept of development in Nevis as compared to St. Kitts. And as a result, people who prefer the quiet atmosphere of Nevis would be gravitated to Nevis rather than St. Kitts, and therefore Nevis would get its full share of economic development over the course of timetable I gave, timeline I gave. So I'm not persuaded that Nevis's economic future is tied definitely to St. Kitts. So it is very likely that because of the smaller population, because of the smaller size, and because of the sheer lack of land space as compared to St. Kitts, which is 68 square miles, Nevis is 32. Nevis was 50 when I was going to primary school. But erosion has taken place.
Okay.
But erosion could be controlled. It could be controlled. And as a result, Nevis has its time for expansion and people participation, people appreciation, and ultimately Nevis is going to get its share. I am not worried at all.
I think Nevis will get its share, but it does have to be on the back of a bridge. I find that our share probably would be more and more to enjoy than if we have a bridge, because I think there's serious economic situation that can really impact the development of Nevis. I mean, Minister Brand, I'll speak from his standpoint, and I'll briefly point out an area which we would be affected. Why the bridge? Nevis we need our fair share. Okay? We need our fair share, and let's see Nevis move and develop, in a more complete sense. Come on. This is almost putting our focus elsewhere. We have a huge development of the hospital need to be completed. We have a lot of things that need to happen to bring us, and it's about money. We need our fair share. We want to see the bad stream. We want to see development here in Nevis. Too much business, little business come up and go down easily because there isn't much vibrancy. You may think a bridge here might bring some. It might be the opposite. I can almost assure you it's going to be the opposite, because every weekend everybody's going to head down with their car, load up from Rams, load up everywhere, and come back.
Yeah, you could have vice versa. People from Sinkers might spend the weekend in Nevis too.
Spend the weekend?
And enjoy some of...
Yeah, but we'll spend the money in Sinkers.
Well, they'll spend some
It's alright for them to come up and stay with a family member and hang out. No, we got to be careful here. We cannot make joke with Nevis right now. You understand? And we must... do we have a program? We have a program because we have an administration.
Yes.
Okay? And so our program should go ahead without these major interruptions and consideration that would bring doubts into where we want to be in 20 years' time. We have an administration. Okay? Because yes, there would be a debate around the bridge and the impact of a bridge, but there wouldn't be no certainty at this point. But I feel, and after speaking to many business people in Nevis, it's been said that the tropical may not come to Nevis anymore. Let me say that. The Nevis people go in Sinkers and then we drive, go for it. One businessman said that to me. All of them said no, that seems to be problematic for business in Nevis, because we don't think, we just want it cheaper goods. The young people go to Sinkers for all the entertainment and the more faster pace in life, and it's threatening to a fulfilling Nevis as far as I check. I mean, sometimes I see things taking place here. The last major event they have at Malcolm Gishard Park. Car park all up with me, and I live in TDC area. This is organized by a guy from St. Kitts, and then you do one in St. Kitts. Nevis need to really set a program along with the administration that's in power. It doesn't matter which party, and be very focused. Very focused. I think a lot of the interpolation that comes from St. Kitts is just threatening. I mean, if the party doesn't have a way forward, tell the people. Tell the people. But I believe they have a way forward. I believe they have a way forward, and they must stick to their guns.
The roadmap.
Stick to the roadmap. You know, stick to the roadmap. Give us our fair share, and let me stick to the roadmap. That's easy going.
Look,
Don't try to consume us. Don't try to consume us.
I think you just have an element of fear, and I don't share your opinion. I don't.
Well, I understand you would make a lot of money out of the bridge, Mr. Stanley. But you know, the former Prime Minister, today's Foreign Minister, Denzel Douglas, said once upon a time that he's going to join St. Kitts Nevis with a series of real estate development. I would never forget that statement. Sounds great. Sounds great. Sounds great. It even sounds a little better than a bridge to me. You know, there you fit in pretty well as well, Mr. Stanley, as a real estate person. So, you will be all right regardless, as far as I check, and you're okay. So I let's think of Nevis and not ourselves sometimes, and encourage the government to go on its path, following the roadmap that it sets out for the people of Nevis.
In my view, that's fear-mongering. And based on how things could be developed, like I said earlier, there are two islands. One is larger, one is smaller. And we have the Four Seasons here. The Four Seasons was really not an accident. It's by choice for the developer, the owner. What is it? Is it door sharp?
Yeah, I don't remember.
He saw and he came.
Yeah.
And he put in the investment, and today that investment is paying off handsomely. There are other people who are looking at this gem, and they will too come aboard.
How would the gem be affected by a bridge? Nevis is still quiet. That's a part of its attraction. You know, tranquility is what we sell here. We want, like, really Nevis to be like St. Kitts. I think Nevis has a particular thing about Nevis. Okay? That would bring the tourists. More tourists used to come to Nevis before tourists start go St. Kitts. As a kid going by school, you never used to see a lot of tourists come up there to where the electoral offices in that little place. You never used to see Mr. Brand?
Yeah, when you're in bar school.
Yes.
Okay, good evening, thank you for holding.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good night.
Good evening. Good evening.
Yeah. What I would like to ask you all, the elder people here in Nevis who work very hard for what they achieve in life, I would like to know if the other people do not have any respect for them. They need to respect people who work hard here in Nevis for what they earn and what they have, not for other people walking all over them. We seem to have a lot of that here in Nevis, and it needs to be stopped. Have a good night.
Okay, thank you.
Well, the older people, the caller have made a point, and if that is happening there, it needs to be stopped. But the elders must be held in a very special category, where we have to show them maximum respect and give them what it is, all their kudos and the care that is necessary. I don't know what the caller is talking about in particular, but if there is a case where she sees such things are not happening, but I think I would agree with the caller wholeheartedly. The elders must be held, to that level where respect and honor is always forthcoming.
I wanted to mention that a couple of weeks ago, and I think we did mention it here, that the CARICOM members had a meeting, and one of the things that was on the agenda where they spoke about was the guns, the crime. And one of the things, the talking points seemingly that came out of that particular meeting is to ask the United States to control or to put more effort into the flow of guns into the Caribbean. And that seemed to be one of the strategies, or seemingly even the main strategy, that CARICOM has come up with. Well, certainly the one that seemingly that's out front. So I just wanted your thoughts on it.
Well, Webbo, you are absolutely correct. First of all, there is no Caribbean country that manufactures firearms, none. And I think it was the Bush Senior, either Bush or Reagan. I'll have to be absolutely certain. When the U.S. developed this policy, Webbo, of repatriating criminals from their born-in land after they would have served their time in prison in the United States. A lot of Caribbean islands basically cried out when that policy was implemented, because what happened, Webbo, the Caribbean, a different culture and a different kind of mentality as it regards to crime and criminality, was unleashed on the Caribbean when these persons were repatriated to the Caribbean. With that, Webbo, came the intricacies of getting these firearms into the Caribbean. The Caribbean has never really caught itself from those years as it regards to the explosion in criminal activity and the sophistication of crime and criminality. Here again, we are wrestling with an issue where, rightly or wrongly, practically all of the Caribbean islands have a lot of porous borders. The necessary resources are not necessarily available throughout the entire Caribbean to seal up these borders. So because of the kind of sophistication in criminality and getting these guns into the Caribbean, we have seen a lot of these spikes in murders and those kind of crime. CARICOM has said to the US, listen, here is the problem. None of the Caribbean islands manufacture firearms. You who are the premier manufacturer of firearms, you have to do more to try and ensure and insulate these islands from having these weapons funnel into the Caribbean. Will they get some results? I am not certain, because I am seeing, Webbo, that while we are also having this kind of gun violence, so to speak, in the Caribbean, the United States themselves can't even come to an agreement when it comes to their own internal firearm policy. So while the Caribbean is feeling the pinch and the brunt of what is taking place with these firearms, internally in the US, they are not being able to solve the problem themselves.
Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Good evening. The idea of a bridge, I think, would have materialized regardless of how the island developed. Even if 20 years down the road, Nevis follows its own path and think it do the same, it's a natural, it would be a natural phenomenon to have a bridge between the islands if it is economically feasible, right? I think there's a fear that the bridge would quell or any idea of secession in the future. I think that's more the fear than anything else. Okay, because yes, if you have the bridge, would it make economic sense to have an airport like an international airport like Van Amri? Right? It just wouldn't make sense.
Caller, let me, the point that you're making there, and Mr. Brand, was making the point earlier, and you're saying that if the bridge make economic sense, then you can get federal monies and have it built, correct?
Federal monies, yes.
Yes. Work with me. If Mr. Brand is saying, if you put an airport in Nevis, expand it and everything and so on, it makes economic sense. Should you use federal monies to build that to be in its one federation?
To build what? The
airport, yes.
Sure, if it makes economic sense, there's no reason why it shouldn't happen.
Okay, so work with me. So therefore, it's good for us to have a debate on both ends.
Sure, you can consider all options should be on the table.
Okay,
and choose the best one.
Right, but you would agree as of now, all are not on the table.
No, why would you say that?
No. Oh, so you think the airport is on the table?
I don't hear anybody ruling it out. Did you hear somebody rule it out?
Did anybody rule it in?
About federal funds for the airport?
Yes.
I don't know that it has been discussed, but
hello, work with me. You said you don't know that it was ruled out. Correct?
I don't. Do you?
No, work with me. You don't know that it was ruled out, the airport.
No, I don't.
But your view was, when I asked you the question, that it and everything should be ruled in.
Yes.
Okay. Do you know whether or not the bridge was ruled in?
I don't know. I'm not privy to the discussion.
Right. Work with me. So you don't know, and you haven't heard it mentioned that a bridge is proposed?
I've heard Dr. Douglas mention something like that.
Okay, so you don't think that will fit under the question that I asked, that it has been ruled in?
But I can't imagine something like that being one leader's prerogative.
Now work with me. The bridge was proposed, and that is why persons were discussing it and the feasibility, etc. You agree with that?
Yes.
Right. Now, you also said that you think that everything that makes economic sense should be ruled in and discussed. Correct? Right?
Yes.
Okay. But you are agreeing that you have you learned that the bridge was discussed, and I use the term ruled in.
It was discussed.
Right. And I ask you that Mr. Brand mentioned about the airport. Have you heard that ruled in or been discussed?
I have not heard anything about federal funds being used for the airport.
Right. But you said in your own view as a citizen that if it's something that can be feasible and so on, you wouldn't mind it being ruled in and discussed and use federal funds to build it.
No,
right?
I wouldn't mind at all.
Okay, so that's all I was asking.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
But at the same time, remember that something like a bridge between these two islands would be a kind of a project that guess who would be willing to finance?
Yeah, but you see, the thing is, I suppose that will come in the debate after you put everything on the table. You agree with that?
Well, that would come in the debate, yes. But I'm suggesting that China, with its resources and what it's attempting to do, and marginalizing Taiwan included, that would be a project that would be very much attractive to them. Right,
but you haven't heard China talk about it, though.
No, I haven't.
But in the meantime, you have heard others talk about it.
I've seen what the Chinese are doing.
We're not going to China yet. We are staying here in Singis Nevis and discussing that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we're trying to go on Mr. Brand's proposal, our suggestion, and yours, and see whether or not we can get Edric in with his. Are you following me, as Edric Stanley would say?
Okay, go ahead.
You're following me?
I don't know.
You don't know if you're following me?
No, what I don't know is how Edric's proposal would fit in if they are in fact complementary with each other, if the two projects would be complementary with each other.
Right.
Maybe not.
Right, but you would not know if they're complementary if you only put Edric's project on the table and leave out Brand's. You would agree with that?
I would only know if it's complementary if I do what? Both should be considered.
Right, so what I'm saying is, my job is, and my role is, when Edric puts his foot and Brand puts his foot, my job or my role is to make sure that both of them get, a say. But if Edric is more powerful and skilled than Brand, and Brand doesn't get a say, who knows, we might lose the best project.
That's true.
Okay.
That is true.
So that's just what my role is.
And but at the same time, we should not leave it. It should not be up to just Edric and Brand.
No. Those are just examples.
Right.
When you're making a case. Walk with me. What I'm saying is, that is just like when you're saying you use a letter for a particular subject. You say A or B or C or D. You see what I'm saying? We're just making the point that you bring everybody in and you have a discussion.
Who do you think is going to decide which option is taken?
Well, who I think will decide that?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think if you put everybody on the table with their ideas and suggestion, and then everybody say, well, okay, everybody will come in, and then this is how we will decide who will be the umpire, who will be the judges, and so on, and they will look at it. That sounds fair?
Sure.
Okay.
But you realize, though, that the bridge would have a huge impact on any secessionist move.
Yeah, well, all that will be a part. Walk with me. All that will be a part of the discussion. Everything will be discussed. The pros and the cons and the
But shouldn't one be discussed before the other?
Caller, let me ask you a question. And Webbo, forgive me for interrupting. Why do you think that the bridge would have an impact on the secession move?
On secession?
Yes.
Because most likely what it would do is create more movement between the islands, for one, and I don't think a secession, the idea of secession can easily be carried forward with a lot of contact between the islands. It's like, for instance, if Sandy Point could have seceded from St. Kitts because it feels it's a close-knit society and feel that they're, say, a cut above or whatever, it would have seceded. But it's not physically possible. That is what a bridge would do. Okay, even though there might be that fervor for separateness and uniqueness and there is a envisioned psyche, all those things, okay?
Let me ask you a question,
It's
Carl.
going to make a huge difference.
Let me ask you a question. You
Yeah.
think if two people live together for 40 years of their lives and they're probably, let's say, 60, you think they could separate after that?
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Why not? Why not? We don't know exactly what is keeping them together. Suppose they are irreconcilable.
Work with me.
Answer yourself.
Oh, okay. So they live in the same house for 40 years, right?
Yeah.
And eat together and everything and so on. And you're saying that after 40 years they can separate?
Yeah, they can separate.
Okay, good.
But economics is a very powerful thing, eh? And economics succeeds where politics fail.
So, in other words, they can separate, but economics will bring them back.
Exactly.
Oh, okay,
Carla.
so work with me.
Carla,
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Brown.
can unfair economics also be a catalyst for secession? Just a question.
A catalyst for
The secession move? The secession move?
yes,
Unfair
yes,
economics?
yes.
Okay, all right.
If as they claim, Nevis is not getting its fair share of the national pie, that is a reason, yes, for secession. Once you're convinced that you'll be better off with secession, okay? But the jury is still out on that, eh?
Why though? Why the jury is still out on that?
It's not guaranteed.
But nothing is guaranteed.
Right, nothing is guaranteed, but when you look at the past and how the islands have developed as they are now, okay, do you really feel that Nevis would be better off if it's separate from St. Kitts?
I'll answer you this way. Do you think that Nevis would have seen greater development if the island of Nevis was getting its fair share and put itself in a much better position?
I don't know that. You see, and that's the problem, right? Before the SIDF and so on, right? Those islands were developing along particular paths and doing quite well generally. It's only since the SIDF come in, it seems as if this fair share thing has taken over everything. Okay? And those are things that can be negotiated. Right? And if they're negotiated properly, then it's removed as one of the impetus for secession.
Okay, caller, I got you. Let me get a break.
All right, then.
This is Thought That Get Results with Edric W. Stanley. Conrad Nile Lambert, the Honorable Spencer Brand. We'll be back after this.
Builders Paradise is offering a large variety of floor and wall tiles at very competitive prices. Builders Paradise has over 2 million pieces in stock, lots of different styles to choose from. Whether you're renovating or tiling a new house, Builders Paradise has what you need. Wow! Oh, and remember, we're open all day Saturday to serve you better. This is something that you can't refuse. Visit Builders Paradise today at the C.A. Paul Southwell Industrial Site in St. Kitts or call them at 466-4938.
Let's go back. Good evening, thank you for holding. Good evening, thank you for holding.
Yes, good evening. Just a question for Mr. Brand, Spencer Brand. How soon can we see a bus terminal coming to station in Charlestown? I'll listen after you. Thank you.
Okay.
Caller, I am going to be, I'm a practical person. I cannot tell you this month, next year. We have identified 2 possible locations on the periphery of Charlestown. It will take some acquisition, it will take some resources. I honestly cannot sit here tonight and tell you this year or next year.
Okay.
idea of the king being head of state has been tossed around, and among the Caribbean countries, some are toying with the idea of becoming a republic. As our Prime Minister mentioned, that based on feelings right now, it must be discussed by all the stakeholders before we take a bold step with reference to a head of state coming from the population, or continue to use the monarchy as head of state. Well, the Prime Minister of is it Grenada? Gonzales.
St. Vincent.
St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Yes.
He is gung-ho because they might have had a referendum in 2005 or somewhere back there, 2009, regarding the head of state as a local, and as a result, that is where his head is at. Several other Commonwealth countries are looking at a debate internally as to whether or not they should maintain the King Charles III, as the head of state, and how beneficial would it be to the country that chooses Charles or a local, or one of them internally as head of state.
Yes, it's quite an ongoing debate in a serious way. Of course, a lot of consultation will have to take place. The esteem way in which the British public hold their king, would we be able to see an individual amongst us and we hold such individual in such esteem? We should be able to do that. And so it means a lot more than a change in format to me. You know, the king represents something, and when I say the king, I mean whether he's chosen from there or here, but a king that is chosen from amongst us really should make us feel a lot better than our former colonizers. Feeling is one thing, but in reality it's another thing. I suppose those who remain a part of the Commonwealth would be better treated by England than those who move away, and that in itself is a risk. And so, given our development, our dependency and so forth, there's a lot to discuss on the subject matter, and I hope that the public will have their chance in putting their feelings on the table.
Well, basically, we have currently chosen our leaders, and all we need to do is to change the categorization to whatever it is, whether it's going to be a president, as the case might be. Case done.
And we're done. This program repeats tomorrow at 10 o'clock following the VON News Minute. Join the Honorable Mark Brantley tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock for On Demand. Thank you all again for joining us. This is your voice in the community, thought that get results. You all have a wonderful evening.
The views and opinions expressed on the preceding program are solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the News Broadcasting Company Limited or its advertisers.